Let's see. If we're going to name this something, we can name it something like Dancing in the Dark. I remember Darren had a vision years ago, probably 16, 17 years ago. And in it, he was outside of a church building, and they were rocking and rolling and having church, and it was all lit up. And he was in the dark, and he's looking in the window. The children can be released. Thank you for that. And he remembers feeling to look around. When he looked around, and there was a shadow, and there he was. And it was Yeshua, it was Jesus. And he said, "You're going to find me in the dark places." And you know, the seed germinates, a seed in the ground and a seed in the womb of a woman, it germinates in the dark. You know that we saw the tabernacle, the physical tabernacle in the earth realm was a picture of a spiritual dimension in a tabernacle in heaven. Now, I know our minds, because our minds, am I too loud for everybody? I sound really loud. Our minds automatically think we're going to get to heaven and it's going to look like a tabernacle because we're used to living by the constructs. But what God would tell them to do physically was a picture of what was happening in the spirit realm. So the same way that a baby is formed and grows in the physical form world, the construct world, is a picture of how a baby is formed in the spirit. Can we show that clip? You guys can get that ready? So when Nicodemus comes to Jesus, and here he knew the word thus far. He was a man of scripture. They didn't call it scripture, but a religious man. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And he comes to him in the night. And he says, "Nicodemus, you are teaching these things. Like, if you don't know this, who knows this?" Basically, Yeshua said. And he said that unless you're born again, you'll never even see the kingdom. And we know he wasn't talking about seeing with these eyes. What we see with our eyes is a doorway to the unseen. We know that the miracles weren't enough. The miracles were a door to the unseen. Just like we talked about last week with the lepers. And only one came back. He went into the unseen. All were healed, and one was sozo, completely made whole from the unseen, from the unknown. And I heard God say yesterday that he's reversed our roles. I wonder if I can drink this. You guys want to know that I used to go around the church when I cleaned it in Oklahoma. This is really gross. And drank everyone, because I didn't want, this was my poverty thinking probably. I drank water. I didn't want the water to go to waste. About COVID-19 time, I quit drinking your water. I'm just kidding. All right, let's watch this. It's 2 minutes. You guys give me 2 minutes? I'm talking about you. I'm talking about the formation in the spirit of your spirit man. Come with me into the unknown. You that are medical minds, leave that, and let's look at this in a mystical way. much more mystical than that. But it's a picture of what's being formed in us. See, I believe that we were in Adam and we are in Christ now. And when he came up, when he arose, mankind, the second Adam, the last Adam, mankind, was in him. But I believe, we'll see, this can unfold even more because God's rapidly changing what we believe, that it was in seed form. And as we've used, even as we call them the awakenings or the wakes, it's an awakening to what was already finished. It's not for us to finish, it's for us to awaken to what was done in the spirit, then we can begin, the growth begins. So the seed, the Spirit of God, could be inside man, a woman, and it never mature and they never are aware. Does that make sense? And then we are awakened to, and I believe that we are born again, if you want to use that term, or awakening, and we're continually awakening to the next stage. It's a yieldedness to the growth. It's a yieldedness to the growth. He's the one growing us. We're the one yielding to the growth, okay? So the thing about our mind, the carnal mind, is the mind is attached to the systems of the world, right? So we did, remember all the 7 mountains we did? I don't know if you guys read that book, but you have the religious system, you have business, the governments of this world, you have family. Do you guys remember those? Are you out there? Okay. So these are systems. The reason I'm going after the release of the mind, the carnal mind, is that's the only way you're going to get free from the system. I had somebody look at me this week and they said, you know that you're the, and she was talking to me in the spirit. She said, you know you're the type that they want to kill. And I said, I know, because my whole life, what I dreamed about when I would read about the mystics is to release people from the system. And what we don't realize is we've loved the systems. We choose a system. And the mind will, a system being an idea that we form, okay? It's a system is ideas formed by the mind. And what the carnal mind will do is we'll exchange one system for another or one idea for another. Are y'all out there? So what does that mean? That means you can hear new truths and you can exchange the last thing you remember for this thing and never go through the door. God told me that he's reversing the roles with Darren and I from how we raised our kids. And I taught him, and I'm there day in, day out. You know, we just went without at the time. I was going to stay home with my kids. And then he's more the one like, time to go, kicking him out of the nest. And it's the opposite right now, you guys. Darren laid a foundation step by step. That's why we're reconstructing even his messages online. But I'm here to do this, to help you move into the mystical. That's why it's uncomfortable. Are y'all out there? And I don't like it either, but I love it because I'm okay not knowing where we're going. I say things on purpose, guys, to make you go like this. Jesus just went up and said, hey, follow me. And they had to go by this. It's a dark place. When you let go of the constructs, the collective constructs that we've built all of these systems, there's only one way to be free. Your attachment is in your mind. That's why I hit on it, and I hit on it, and I hit on it. When we live by reasoning, when we're weighing it out, when we're working it through, when we're processing one to the other, it is from this tree. Okay? The verdict on the carnal is death. Now quit. I know that we've been trained up in condemnation. I'm not talking about death as a verdict, as you're condemned, you're bad, you're living by the carnal. The other day I was putting my room back together because Josie's been painting. You guys know those power strips? So I'm plugging all this power strips back in because she unplugged stuff. And I didn't know that I plugged the power strip into itself. I'm like, why is this not coming on? That's a picture of our natural mind. And listen to me out there. God is tearing down the systems. I know our natural self wants to go back to how life was, or let's get the right president in, let's get the wall rebuilt, let's what is happening. Every one of us have a good answer of what we need to get back to. But I'm telling you, in the next 4 or 5 years, you're going to see system after system after system fall. And we're not going down with the systems because we're going to already be detached from them in our minds. Now listen to me. I'm getting letters from people. Please write me. I'm loving it. I'm not just trying to marry the East with the West. Both are systems. Okay? So in the Old Testament, God knew he was working with man after the mind of man. So he met them where they are. Thus, the blood sacrifices. It wasn't God thirsty for blood. I mean, come on, if you'd never heard the gospel and then you read about David, it would make you sick. The blood that was shed. Okay? But they had, way back then, they're like, no, we want to do it after man. They had their King Saul. He was a man. God said, you're not going to want this. You're not going to want a king. He's going to take your daughters. He's going to build his own kingdom. He's going to take your land. No, we want to look like everyone else. So from that point, then God began to work with man even more on where man was. So then God had to give them instruction. Everyone say instruction. In their constructs. You want the city, walk around it. Gideon, this is how you're going to know. When they bend down, the ones that need to go home, they're going to drink like this. Right? Was it Elijah that sent him home? Go wash in the river Jordan to be cleansed. It was always instructions. You do this, you get this. Darren used to say, it's like putting a quarter in a gumball machine, and you're supposed to get the gumball. And we're so angry and hurt because we put the quarter in. This is the system, and it's not working anymore. Where's the gumball? And God said, I'm taking your gumballs. Because the system isn't to be your source, because it's like a cord plugged into itself, and it's only going to give you the level of energy that it carries. So then what we do is we choose between being vaxxed or not vaxxed, between political parties, between all the systems and the better way of do things. We sit there and choose, and we have a lot of pride when we get it right. But we don't realize we're still in the system, guys. It's just like this. And I'll be ready for you. You can come up here, Alex. There's a bakery, and it's baking cakes. Some of them are poisonous. You eat these cakes, you're going to die. Right. No, we're not going to that bakery. Some of them are nourishing. You eat these cakes, they're full of life. You're going to live. Okay? Jesus didn't come, it says he didn't come into the world to judge. That word is krinos. He didn't come into the world to separate which cake is poisonous and which is healthy. The reason we're talking about neutrality is he had to become neutral to that bakery. That bakery did not matter. He walked by the bakery. Oh, you got to choose. What's right? That's what our mind does. Jesus walked by the bakery and he said, no, I have food you don't know anything about. It's from a whole nother space. It's from the unknown. And he's maturing us to eat from that space. I'm like, thank you, Kirby. It's not a matter I tried to say this up front. It's not a matter if you agree with something he said. That's not the point. I said, if he just came here and stood, there was an impartation. I don't know another living person that I know personally that was a breatharian. I think 7 or 8 months he lived off the breath of God or something. Maybe 10 months, and he had 7 meals of, I don't know. Off the breath of God. Look it up. It's in National Geographic. It's in different things. Oh my gosh, in our lifetime. Living from a different space. So here God, let's read about David really quick. Let's go into this. You guys feel like I'm yelling at you? Good. I am yelling at you, Chris. No, I do want to say next Saturday we're sending out more information. We are having a celebration of life service for Belinda. In the midst of one reality, God's doing beautiful things. And we feel both of them. It's crazy, isn't it? It's insane, isn't it? These guys asked Josie to help sing. It'll be the first time she's been up there since before Darren transitioned. And I'm crying because as you look for the door, like I talked about last week, there's healing in the pain. There's two realities going on. And you get to live in whichever one you want, but you're going to get, it's going to frame your world. So let's look at David really quick. He built the tabernacle of David, was compared to the New Testament church. Jesus was literally the son of David. Why? Here he was. He lived amongst men that had darkened minds. Men were living by their minds, right? Saul didn't honor the ark, the presence of God. And David was going to bring it back and honor the presence of God. You guys know the story, some of you. So he goes and he puts it on oxen, the Ark of the Covenant. And oxen represent strength. And he goes to fall, and Uzzah starts pushing it back up, and God strikes him dead. And David's like, what do I do to get the presence back? And he was a man that had a heart after God. He was a man that would transcend the natural mind and the constructs. But still, God, just like Jesus had to walk through the constructs, y'all, that man set up, it's incredible. He was limited when he was here. He did it as he had to wait 33 years. I mean, he did it at 30 years. I mean, he did it under the constructs of man. God always will meet us where we are. So here's David, and he says, let me read this. It's in 2 Samuel 6. We don't have to go there because I'm going to jump around in it. So God tells him how to do it, and I believe that it was about 9 miles, between 8 and 10 miles, okay? And God's every 6 steps, you're going to stop and kill a fatted calf and kill a bull. So this guy did the math. He said it's about 60,000 steps. That's about 3,500 sacrifices. Rick Joyner said, from Obed-Edom's house to Mount Zion, the procession left in its wake a trail of blood and guts as far as the eye could see. God's saying, you want to live by the constructs of man? You want to live by how you set things up? There's no way to get back to me from those constructs. There's no way to get back to God while we're connected to the systems. This is why the mystics were killed, you guys. They began to hear and move into union. They began to move it into the spirit, and they would rise above those religious systems or the governmental systems, and that's what took them out. That's why they put them in prison, right? And so here they do this. It's just incredible to me. The number 6 is man, and the word for oxen is natural strength. You want to live by the strength of man? This is what it's going to take. You don't even know. You got to die to man's strength. In 2 Samuel 6:4, it says when he finally made it, under the constructs of man, he finally made it with the presence of God back to his city, he began to dance with all his might. That word means delude himself. He just completely humiliated himself. He did not care. He moved into the supernatural. He moved into the mystical. That was a picture for us. It wasn't the slaughter that was the picture. That was under the constructs of man. The picture is the presence has been returned, and now all we have to do is celebrate and get out of our minds. And his wife, who was Saul's daughter of the flesh, she judged it. Yeah. And she said, you've humiliated the kingdom, like you stripped down, and you are a man of majesty, and you laid your majesty down in front of my servants. And he said, oh, honey, I'll humiliate myself even more. Listen to me, guys, that's where we're going. Those that are being willing to strip down even more, and we're not stopping. More into the mystical. The people that are writing me that have left the church, went into the occult, went into the Eastern religions, went into different things, and now they're coming back, but not to the church. We're making room for them. Do you guys know that the word holy in Aramaic means it represents the quality of spaciousness? When you set aside time That space is holy. It's the quality of spaciousness. So when you begin to create spaciousness in your life, it looks very unknown. You clear the field. You prepare a way. You don't know what it's going to look like, but you know that you'll delude yourself even more when the presence starts manifesting. So here, that's more of the picture, this crazy man. And so I heard somebody say this. Listen, guys. The constructs, the sacrifices we know were a means to an end. It's things man did. God met them there, but the end was celebration and intimacy. It's no different than all of these things that we try to teach. After a while, the way that you meditate, the way that you pray, the things that you do, they will begin to fall off. Can you show that picture of electricity? On either side. It's just like walking around a city. Our minds want to say, tell me how to do it. This is more, 2 times, I believe 2, maybe 3 times. This is what the communication with me and Darren has looked like, Darren and I, when I come near him or he comes near me. Put that into words for me. There's a reason I was throwing pictures up of what Jesus is to you, and we were laughing, and Russell has a Jesus. My dog. Because those are constructs that we created, and as you're willing to get rid of the constructs of what you know so far, that's when you're going to experience the more. That baby is in the dark being formed. God is maturing us in the dark. When it says in the dark, it's a place of ignorance. The verdict on this is death, but not in I'm mad at you kind of way. It's not infinite life. It was always about source. It was always, I think Peter's not here, but it was always about your mind serving the source, not being the source. But some of us are so unfamiliar with our spirit, and our mind starts freaking out. But guys, after the darkness is the resurrection. There's not another way. And this is why I say when we're getting struck like this, we have an opportunity. That's all I know. Your mind always wants to put reason to it. And listen, when I tell you what God showed me with Darren, I'm not telling you that about your loved ones. God will show you what he shows you. Okay? I'm not trying to put a construct. But what I am saying that there's a door into the mystical, into the unknown, and it's the unknown you. And I told you I messaged Nathan, and I've loved visiting with him just because I can say 3 words and he knows what I'm talking about because his son transitioned years ago. And a lot of people have experienced his son. He knows that death isn't real. It's real to our senses. It's real to one reality. But we are multidimensional. But I texted him and I said, had I not been struck to the heart, I don't think I'd ever meet this person I'm meeting. The mystical union is you. The construct that come down is the construct that you have of yourself. It is the construct. Who am I? And that's not a bad place when you get there. It's a beautiful place when you're willing to let it all go. Because he's the one, just like he's maturing that baby in the dark place, he's the one maturing you. You're going to experience God in your life, in the letting go. In the letting go. And we're all in the same boat in that. I told you, I said, I have to treat my mind like Joni, like Alex's baby. My mind will freak out and my mind will cry. And I'm not judging it. I'm holding it. I'm saying it's okay. I'm saying you don't understand, but you will one day. And so that's the one reality. What we were taught, when we were taught about separation, is we were taught you judge that, you leave one for the other, but we're talking about source. Once you begin to live from this, you redeem this. You want to talk? All right, hop up here. You're freezing? Do you want me to take your purse?
No, it's okay.
Would you like
Is she okay? Let's scoot over. Let's get over here.
Can I still sit? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can sit.
Sorry, all of this makes me so emotional. Because as we're learning to go into the unknown, we're also learning at the same time to strengthen our knowing within, to that stillness, that peace within. And facing what we would call darkness, or going into the darkness and seeing what's there and facing those fears is how you strengthen that knowing within. It's how you strengthen that peace within. And this is something I've done. I'm not recommending this to anyone else, but I had a word years ago that said I would go into dark places that people have said they've been, but they've never been before. And I didn't know what that looked like. To me, that was a physical place, but now I'm knowing that that's within, and that's areas in my life, that's fears within my life that I'm facing. And my dad gave me this word, and I listened to it almost every day. And he's encouraging me in the word, and he said, face those fears, daughter, face those fears. And so I'm driving down the road, and I feel so much fear because there's a heaviness going on, and we know that things are transitioning, and we know unknown is coming, and you can feel this heaviness and this bigness, and everyone around us is feeling it. And I just start screaming in my car, I'm not afraid, so that I could just hear myself say it. And the image that comes up to me is when my mom first called me to let me know that Darren had transitioned. And I start screaming at her that she was a liar. You know, your body takes over, and I'm screaming, you're a liar. And immediately I call her back, I'm screaming, I'm crying, and I immediately call her back, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, you're not a liar, I'm so sorry this is happening. And what I go and I re-envision, not to re-traumatize myself, but we're on FaceTime, and she shows me my dad, and his mouth is hanging open. And she goes to close his mouth because he had already transitioned, so there was no control there. And she puts her hand here, and she closes his mouth. And I go and I re-see that, not because I'm re-traumatizing myself, but because that was my biggest fear. What else is there? And then I go and I sit in that moment, and I let it wash over me. And I say, my biggest fear has already happened. That the most darkness I could ever imagine has already happened. And then I just sit in that moment, and I allow it to take over. I allow the feeling to go within, so then I can release it. And then I can find peace. And even as I'm looking at him with his mouth hanging open, there's still that knowing within. There's still that peace within. And there's still that trust. I know my Father. I know my Daddy God. And I know that there's more for me in this moment. So after I've been on this journey, you guys, I've been to places within myself that I would call darkness that is so overwhelming I can't breathe. And then I just sit there and I allow the fact that I can't breathe. And I allow the grief, and I allow the pain, and I allow the process, and I allow the darkness. And then I just sit there and I say, but God is still good. And not only that, but I allow the knowing within me that is connected to the divine source, that is connected to the Christ within, and I say, there's peace in that moment. There's peace in the middle of the darkness and the chaos and the things that we don't understand. And if you're comfortable and if you're feeling safe, you're not growing. And I thought growing up that I had this concept that Christianity was that you would get to this point in your life that everything would just be okay all of a sudden. And then everything would just be bliss. And now we're learning that the bliss is from no matter what is you're facing, no matter what you're going through, no matter what lifeless body you're staring at, that there's a knowing within, there's a bliss within, there's a peace within that cannot be moved, no matter your circumstances. And so what Sheila's teaching us, the things that we're learning, and it brings some uncomfortability because before we had someone who was pulling us along, and now we have someone that's saying, figure it out. Here's the information, here's the knowledge, but you have to face that place within yourself alone. But you're not alone because we're all one and we're all facing it. But it's in that place that you expand so much in love that you didn't even know you were capable of. I didn't know I was capable of that much love. I didn't know I was capable of that stillness within, in the face of my greatest fear, in the face of something that my mind is freaking out, my body is freaking out, I'm screaming just out of a reaction. And then all of a sudden it's this bliss and this peace in this moment. And where we're going, and as these systems tear down, what's going to happen is our bodies are going to start to react because we don't know anything different. That's what we've been taught. And I read this the other day that if you're not paving your own way, a way that's never been paved before, then you're just following someone else's way. And you're not listening to the voice within, because the voice within always paves a new way.
Ugh.
The I am, the Christ, is always creating new. And what has happened with these systems of the world is we're not creating our own. We're living under someone else's creation, and it's caused parts of us to die. And so now we're facing these systems falling down, and Christ is breathing into you, create. Create your own way. Create a way that other people then follow. Go your own way. And that voice within is saying, create, create. But as humanity, we've stopped creating, and we've lived for other people's creations. Governments creating, how systems look, or our celebrities creating what beauty looks like, or these standards, and all of it was created by someone else. And then we're stagnant, and we've just been content kind of following other people's creations, and that part of us has died. And now, people are facing these fears, but it's in those fears that Christ is screaming within us, and the rocks are crying out, create, sons and daughters, create. This is your time to create. This is what humanity is looking for. They're looking for creators. And before we sat in our chairs and we listened to the man up here and we listened to his creation, and then we could attach to that. And then when that was gone, we didn't know what to do. But it had to leave because we have to create our own ways. We have to create our own paths. We have to validate that voice within. The Christ within is speaking to us continually, and it's in the validation of going, that's Christ. One thing that Christ has just been speaking to me is whenever I hear a small voice that just says, do something, I do it right then. If it's a small thing, so this girl was walking by, and I just instantly felt within like, oh, she looks so beautiful, and I wanted to tell her, and then I said, oh, no, that's stupid, I don't know what she would think. And at that moment, I'm denying Christ within. Because Christ within was telling me to create, was telling me to share, it was telling me to love, and I said, no, that's stupid. So it's even in the small voices every day that Christ is speaking within that we continue to be like, oh, we turn that voice down. And then we look for an outside voice to tell us what to do. And the inward voice is screaming, listen to me. Create your new way. And so you guys, and I know that we've talked about some healing processes, all of that is just to help you get to a place that when you're in that dark moment, and everything, you feel like everything's going around you and your mind feels so much confusion, is to just show you that stillness within. And if you don't mind, I will share the...
Yeah, because I was going to ask you to, because Saul's daughter, which represented the flesh, judged when David became a crazy man dancing like that and deluded himself. And the flesh, the carnal man, will always judge, which means separation. He'll make a decision. Your mind will make a decision if that's right or wrong and make a verdict, okay? So is that what you're going to share with you guys, the offense of when God was showing you it's one thing, but it was something else? That's what I wanted you to share.
Which one?
With you girls, the offense with me.
Yeah. So a couple nights ago, and I've been asking for it, so I'm not upset with the fact, but I've been asking for this, like, I want to go into those places. I didn't know what I was asking for when I asked for it. But I've been asking to go to these places. I'm like, I just want to go there. And didn't know what I was wanting. And so a couple nights ago, this heaviness comes on me, and this mourning comes up from within me. And God spoke to me a couple months ago. He said, and this is happening right now, you guys, so start to be aware of this. If you're starting to feel abnormally heaviness, there's some generational curses that are being broken with people right now. Things that have been passed down for generation from generation are being broken with the people who are walking on this planet. And it is within you to break it. And so I knew God was speaking to me generationally. And he said, I'm going to use you to heal. And you know what? Let me just say this right now, real fast. It brings me so much joy to know that it was my pleasure to break that for my family, to not pass that on, but also to release the people in the past and say, you don't have to live under this anymore. It is such a pleasure that this is happening right now, for people to break these generational curses. So God started speaking to me, and it was telling me this is going to happen. And I was like, okay, I'm open, I'm ready. And I didn't know what that looked like. And I started having these meditations, and my great-grandfather starts coming in and visiting with me, and just picturing him and loving on him, and that he was someone who I had a lot of hurt towards, and who hurt my family, and had things passed down generationally because of this man's choices. And so I knew that God was releasing judgment from within me. And so this night, I feel this heaviness, and all of a sudden, I couldn't hear anything. I felt extremely alone. And Ramsey was there, and he's trying to help me through this, and I said, I need to go through this. Like, I need you to just not comfort me. I have to go through this. Whatever it is, I know I need to face this. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm weeping, and I just feel this heaviness, and it was dark, and I was afraid, but I knew I had to face it. I'm in the car yelling, I'm not afraid, I'm gonna face these fears, so when they come, you have to face them. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what is this? And all of a sudden, I see grief kind of pent up in unforgiveness. And I knew it had to do with me and my sisters. And I said, okay, what is this? And God said, what you're dealing with and what you and your sisters have been going through, you think is grief, but it's actually unforgiveness. And I said, okay, what do I need to forgive? And this was hard for me to admit, because I didn't even think I needed to forgive in this area. And God showed me Sheila. And I was like, what? I'm angry at her, and I just felt this anger. And I was like, yeah, I do need to forgive her. I'm angry at her. And I was like, where's this anger coming from? Your logical mind, your adult self is like, why would I be angry at this woman? She lost her husband. She lost more than any of us. Why? And I knew that there was this anger on how she dealt with the grief of my father. I had a judgment on what I thought that should look like, and I didn't know it. And I was angry at her. And she already knows this, I already told her. But the belief came in me that I was angry that it was him and not her. And how horrible is that to even think? I didn't even know that was something that I believed within myself, but I was mad that it was him and not her. And so I just said it out loud. I said, I'm angry that he died. Not that I wanted her to die, but it was just an instant thought and a belief that, So then I said, okay, well, I'm going to deal with this unforgiveness. And then God showed me he said, it's generationally unforgiveness. And I said, okay. And he started to bring me through timelines of my great-grandfather and the unforgiveness his daughter had towards him and his actions. And then how it opened a door for her children, my mom, and her children to have unforgiveness towards her. And then it opened a door for Sheila's children to have unforgiveness towards her. And I saw this like string, and it was all the same unforgiveness. And that's why it felt so heavy and so deep and so dark, because it was passed down generationally, and it was an open door in our lives. And I said, I don't want to pass down that unforgiveness to my children. I want to release that. And
in real time, what it would look like for me through the years as she's saying this is I'm working to get something that I don't know, I can't get it. Like trying to prove your heart. If you're still trying to prove your heart and you've been married for a while, you can't. And even as here, because either that person has do you know what I'm saying? So you're working for something that's in the mystical. It's in the unknown, and God wants to give you the keys to it.
Can I share all of it?
I want you to share that part, yeah.
Okay, so there was memories that have been coming up to me, and I'm learning now to be aware of when a memory comes up to me. I say, okay, there's something to that. I'm going to leave it right here until it starts speaking to me or until I start realizing what that's from. And this memory was from when I was second grade. Mm-hmm. And I'm laying in my parents' bed, and I remember grief hit me, and I knew my dad was going to pass. And I was bawling in his bed. And I said, no, God, not him. I'm a first grader. No, Mom, not him, my mom. And then I don't know the time period in between.
We were only in that house for a year.
Yeah, so it had to be within a small period of time. Sheila collapsed and then went into the hospital for a tubal pregnancy. And I took on all this guilt that I created that it happened because of me. And there was so many things attached to that as well. Like one thing was I felt so out of control, and all these people were buying me gifts. And so now when I feel out of control, I buy things because it brings me back to that memory of, okay, well, at least I can control this. And I remember sitting in the office waiting. My mom was in the hospital, and I see my dad pacing, and I remember sitting there with that guilt of, I created this, I did this. And then my mom, when she came out of that, she went into a depression for a couple years. And it changed her, and we knew that it had. And God said, you showed me that when she died on the table, they told her that Darren was going to pass.
In the spirit.
In the spirit. So when she came back out of that, the depression that she was going through was the grief. She was experiencing the level of grief of losing Darren before its time. And God said, I did it this way on purpose, so that when he did pass, that grief period that she went through for those years, it would just transition into what she's doing now. And he said it was my grace. But at the time, as a child, I was angry at her that she was hurting, and she was feeling like I couldn't comprehend why she was feeling those ways. And so I was angry with her for that. And then not knowing it, seeing her through that, and then seeing my dad transition now, I expected her to do that. And she didn't, so then I had unforgiveness. And so I just broke that unforgiveness in my family, and I said, this stops here. We will not pass this down. But I went ahead and I spoke the things out loud that I was believing to be true within here that I didn't want to admit out loud. And then I told her about it, because those are painful things to say, and also I'm sure maybe painful things to hear, but those were beliefs I held on to as a first grader. And so then I told my sisters about it, and I said, you guys, what we've been dealing with is not grief, it's unforgiveness. And we've all been angry and hurt because we expected a process that we were going through that she'd already been through.
This is going to be offensive to your mind. You ready? Some of the grief I had to fake because I was transcending it so quickly. Malcolm shared with me about transcending grief before Darren ever left. And I knew, I'm sitting here listening to his story, and in 3 days he talked about someone that transcended it. And I knew in my spirit. My mind didn't know. But with it, I know I can feel the judgment. I can feel the opinions of people. And that's what I'm saying is the flesh, your flesh, my own judgment would try to put me. I mean, honestly, the last 2 weeks, I was in such a level of peace. It was his time. It was his time. He did choose. And I wasn't going to get it caught up on any lies at that point. Yeah. And it was such a peaceful thing. So when I even called my daughters, I was acting stuff out when I look back now. Does that make sense?
And so then I told my sisters, and I told them about the timeline and how, Sheila's so powerful. She was jumping timelines and, experiencing grief before its time. And I was talking about how it's God's grace. And then I released them from that. And I said, you guys, the heaviness of what we've been feeling has been a generational unforgiveness. But if we don't forgive, if we don't let it go, if we don't just speak the truth out of our mouth or what we believed to be true, then that's what we're passing down to our kids. And we will reap that because it's been sown. Or we can cut it off here and we can release forgiveness. And we can say, we can release also, and I believe this to be true, that because we judged her grieving process, it caused so much more for our grieving processes, where we're not even dealing with grief, we're dealing with unforgiveness, so it's prolonging us. Because it's been a year and we're still in the same cycle because we're not even dealing with what we think we're dealing with it because of the judgment of judging someone else's grief. And
so what that looked like in real time is we would fight it out.
and it's funny because you don't even know what you're fighting about. You don't know what the underlying thing is. Mm-hmm. And you're angry, and this anger is coming out, and you don't know where it's from. Lean into that when you feel that.
The anger is going to be attached to a lie. It's not, there's pain, there's missing somebody, that's different. The anger, that level of hurt is going to be attached to a lie in your belief system on the process or how it happened or what you feel about your life. Remember that woundology, the lady that was teaching on woundology. And we build constructs of our life around that lie.
Yeah.
And then the generational part, it's not just about us. We're talking about getting free from the systems, okay? Generationally, there's been attachments to systems, the way your dad did business, the way your grandpa did business, the way your mother did business, right? So these are now you can hear terms like collective consciousness, the way you're supposed to respond. So we're having to cut all these things and not respond to how the world is responding. When it said, for God so loved the world, it's for God so agape. He brought his God nature, a different nature, into the worldly systems. It's the worldly arrangement. It's not the earth. He so loved the arrangements, the inhabitants in the arrangements, that he gave his life for all of that, to set up a whole different kingdom, to tear down every system.
Well, and if you're looking for someone to say that you're right or apologize and admit that they are wrong, that is the epitome of self-ego. So if you're even looking for that, you're in the wrong. You're in ego. It's ego that needs an apology. It's ego that needed me for her to be like, I'm so sorry you're feeling this way, or that's all ego. None of that's right.
I've never heard this. You guys have probably heard this before, that the ego stands for easing or edging God out. Right?
And so another thing was, my great-grandfather came from nothing. They came over from Italy, and he came from nothing, and he built wealth in this country, and he became a very wealthy man. And I saw that unforgiveness was pinting up wealth. And I knew, and if you talk to any of my sisters, we have this knowing within that we were supposed to be wealthy. We're supposed to be wealthy. We're supposed to create wealth. But because of the unforgiveness started with this man, and we rejected all of him because of the things that he did, we rejected everything, and we cut it off. And God said, well, you cut off all this too. He created wealth for your generations, but you cut it off because of unforgiveness. And so often unforgiveness has so many other things attached to it that if you're staying in that space, or even if you're not allowing to feel the unforgiveness and let it go, it's cutting off everything else around you. It's cutting off wealth, it's cutting off relationships, it's cutting off unconditional love for yourself and for others. And so when I saw that string, I cut that and allowed wealth to flow back through my family. And you could see generationally where the unforgiveness from him affected his children's wealth, their children's wealth, and now us. And it stops here. Now, when I'm going through this, I could barely breathe. I couldn't speak. I'm shaking. I felt very alone and dark. The moment I admitted what I actually felt out loud, there was a release from it. And it's the moment I just accepted, okay, I actually thought those things, and I believed those things to be true no matter how ugly that they were. I believe them to be true, and in the middle of that, I still deserve love, and I still deserve forgiveness. And then I had to walk myself through forgiving myself for thinking those things, because I immediately wanted to judge myself, like, who thinks that? That's horrible. And then I said, no, that's still judgment towards myself.
That's still judgment.
So I stand in forgiveness not only for myself, but for the people I need to forgive as well.
So as I've been looking at it, where our government is, it's not enough just to say out your mouth, or to in your heart even, that this is wrong. Because you can literally be plugged into your own source from that. So even though, yes, this abuse, this is wrong, this is evil, but you literally can stand there and say, this is evil. We're not Old Testament prophets. Jesus paid the price for all of it. The redemption is complete, right? We're here as priests and kings. We're here to redeem, okay? So just making a verdict that that's evil isn't enough. You can actually keep yourself plugged into the source.
Well, this is how you stay in the systems. And I read this and it blew my mind. You know, I believed myself to be a healthy person. I work out, I eat healthy. And then I read, well, if you believe in health, then you believe in sickness. It's the same system.
It's the same tree.
You have to transcend and come above.
And we're going step by step. I saw a lady at I did 2 weddings in the last 2 weeks. I saw a lady at the wedding. She's out taking a smoke break, just smoking. It was really great, watching her smoke. And then she puts her mask on and goes back in. And we see how funny that is in the system, but it's all the same, you guys. And it's okay. I'm not judging this. Listen, I'm not condemning any of it, okay? But we leave one system, we get smarter, and we go to a new system, okay? But ultimately, it's not one or the other. We're going to leave all of them. You're here to outgrow every system. Jesus just did it by the time he was 30. He only saw one thing. He saw the Father. He didn't join anything. He wasn't a part of anything. He didn't join anybody else's opinion. He saw the Father. Now, there's no condemnation if you think that's, about the time you hit 80, 85, whenever you're going to get there. But there's a time, the pressure is here. The constructs are coming down so that we can see the Father. And it's painful only to the degree that we're attached.
Well, and you see that if you look at statistically, the amount of, and I'm just going to call it coping, that people do every single day, the amount of pharmaceutical drugs that we're intaking, the amount of, it's increased so much over the years. And what that is that we are having to cope with the fact that we're not creating.
Yeah.
You were made to create every single day. Every single day.
We have to stay sedated because we're asleep and there's something trying to grow in us that's driving us nuts. And it's the Creator in you, right?
Yep. And it's the death of those systems. But it instantly puts our minds into fight or flight, and that's uncomfortable for us. And God's saying, but you're not creating, so now you're just having to cope with the life that you're living because you're thinking that life is done to you and life is created by you. But because it's done to you, now you just have to cope with every single day because you know inside here that you are Christ and that you are a creator. But because you're not living that truth, you're slowly just allowing yourself to die. You're slowly just coping with what you have. Well, I'll just be okay with what I have. That's not what gratitude is, you guys. Gratitude is not just taking what you have and be like, okay, I'm just going to be thankful. And I remember even someone, as growing up, would just be like, well, you just need to be thankful for that because that's what you have now. But what gratitude is it's a deep knowing. It's a gratitude for what's to come. It's a gratitude for what's already happened. It's a gratitude for the creations that you've already created in the future. It's a gratitude knowing within what's coming, what's been done is all for your goodness. It's all for you to create. Gratitude is knowing you're a creator and thankful that you have that ability, acknowledging that you have the ability to create. That is what gratitude is. It's not about just being thankful for what you have. It's acknowledging that you create your life or someone creates it for you. Mm-hmm. And if someone's creating it for you, you're literally telling yourself that you are not good enough to create. You're denying the Christ within. That is what denying Christ within is. And so then we're all in these systems of working these specific jobs of 9 to 5 or what we're trying, all these systems, and we're so unhappy and we're screaming out on the inside because you were a creator. You are a creator. Start asking yourself, Christ, what have I already created that's already done? Who am I that I have always been? I was born being, I am that now, and I'm going to be. It's just a being, it's a knowing, it's a creating. Because every situation in our lives is a reflection on how we actually feel about ourselves. It's a reflection of either not creating, fear, and fear comes from a place of not creating and thinking that everything's creating by someone else, and then you're just living that life. Love is knowing you're a creator and that you create your future, you create your past, you create healing. That is love. If you're not creating, you're working out of fear, period. There's only two trees. It's either fear and someone's creating your life, or it's love and you're creating it. But to get to this, and this is the transition that we're in from this tree to this tree, to get to this knowing, to get to this being, you're going to have to face all the systems that you've put in your mind, all the systems that you've put yourself into and forced yourself to be.
Yeah, served them.
And serve them. Mm-hmm. And so when we're talking about healing trauma and we're talking about healing these beliefs and healing triggers, it's because on this journey to this tree, you're going to have to face all the things that you forced yourself to be that you never were. Or you force yourself, well, this is how someone makes money, or this is how someone has a relationship, or this is how someone heals their body. And all of it's about transcending that to a knowing that I'm a creator. Every thought that I have creates. And so in this process, I feel a lot of doubt. And so I'm like, God, how do I transcend the doubt? Because there's always that little voice that's like, well, are you a creator? And he said, well, what was I doing when I was in the wilderness and I was being tested? It was testing the creator within him. Mm-hmm. Are you really who you say you are? And every time he spoke out his mouth, he was creating what was to come. He was creating in that moment when he was being tested who he was. Out his mouth, he spoke who he was, and he was creating that. So when you hear that voice, it's not in some outward snake, on a tree. It's inside. Mm-hmm. So when you're hearing that voice, you create by saying, no, this is who I am. I am Christ within. I am always connected. I am oneness with everyone around me. Every choice that I make affects everyone else around me. Everything that I do, everything that I create gives life to those around me. And it's speaking out your mouth. Let yourself hear your words. And the word my dad gave me, he said, your words will frame your world. And as you frame your world, the picture within the frame will start to come alive. Well, I'm reading all the time. I'm meditating all the time. I'm looking for more information. But one thing I haven't been doing is speaking to myself. And so I go and I look in the mirror. And if you stare at the mirror long enough, you start to look like an alien anyways. You're like, that's so weird looking. And I speak to myself. And I say, Alex, you are the I am. Alex, you are Christ within. Alex, you create new avenues of wealth. You create healthy relationships. You create new ways of parenting. You create new ways of expressing unconditional love that have never been expressed before. And do you look in the mirror and do you feel silly? Yeah, you do. But the vibration of the voice that's within you needs to hear who you are. That's why Christ spoke. He spoke what he heard the Father say. Mm-hmm. Speak what you hear the Father say. If not, the voices in your mind will become louder than your voice. You have to re-endow the fact that, no, my voice has power. This is Christ within when I'm speaking, and this is who I am. So doubt, you can talk to my mind, but when I speak out loud, I'm speaking Christ. I'm saying, no, I am the Son of God. Go ahead and test me because this is who I am.
Yep.
And so when you're in the middle of the darkness, when you're in the middle of the wilderness, which is where you grow, Christ was there to experience himself. He was there it was testing his knowing. So then by the time he's in the garden and he's weeping and he's letting that ego die, it was already dead because of who he was speaking to in the wilderness. Mm-hmm. He was already speaking to his body and to his flesh. Listen, we are in these flesh suits, whatever you want to call them. We have these bodies. And we're going to go through things that that's not our will. It's not what our body wants. And our body is fighting to live and survive because we know that when we transcend or when we die, the body doesn't come with us. Mm-hmm. So your body is fighting to be acknowledged and fighting to be a reality. It's not a reality. And you have to speak to your body. So it's not about condemnation of, oh, well, that voice is within me. So it's not about that. It's about the fact that we're humans, but we're spirit within. And we have to rise above and say, body, listen to me. Flesh, listen to me. Yes, you're going to be scared. Yes, it's going to put you in fight or flight. Yes, you're going to feel like I just need to survive this moment. But there is spirit within speaking to you, creating within you that says, not my will, but your will. Not my will, Father, but your will. I am Christ. I am the Son of God. So don't condemn the voice within you. Just speak to it. Speak to the flesh. That's all ego is. It's just flesh. Of course it wants to live. It wants to live because it knows it's not going to transcend with you. It knows it's going to die. It knows it's temporal. It knows it's just an avenue for you to create in a physical world. And the flesh does not want to accept that. Why would it? You have to speak to your flesh. You have to look in the mirror. You have to look at the being that you are, the flesh suit that you are, and say, not my will, but your will, Father. I am a son of God. I am Christ within. I am a creator. And allow that death to the flesh. Is that scary? Is that the dark place she's talking to? Yes. Does it mess with your mind? Absolutely. Does it make you angry? You guys, I've been unreasonably angry for 2 weeks. Just things that are just, it makes no sense to be angry about. I've been so angry about. And then I condemn myself for being angry. I'm like, oh, I got to transcend that. And I'm meditating. I'm like, I got to rid of this anger. And God's like, it's okay, sweetie. All the anger is your flesh knowing that it's transcending and not wanting to.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so I'm actually doing good. I'm on the right path. I'm doing good. I'm trying to label it in my human life, Oh, so I'm doing good. It's not bad. And then God just kind of, he smiles. He's like, sure, if that's the term you want to use, yes, you're doing good.
Good and bad. That's why we learned grace, you guys. This is why in the last, 5-10 years we were learning grace. It wasn't to hold just onto that. It was part of the process into this. And the grace is in your flesh, your behavior, there's only grace. When Paul and Kathleen moved in with us and their house had burnt down, she started talking about it. And, they're in major trauma. They're in their 60s, everything that they had. And she goes, it's nothing compared to what you've went through. And I said, yes, it is. I said, you can feel whatever you want. Sometimes that's the reason we're celebrating. People would walk in our house like, who are these people? We're like, get the wine out. We're just going to have fun. And that's what who's next? Who's moving in next? You know what I mean? You don't raise your hand, you won't want to, because so far everyone that's moved in has been through something traumatic. And then we're just celebrating. It's the happy house.
And that's what it is. It's celebrating past what you feel. Your emotions will line up. Your feelings and all that, they will align. When you're angry, unreasonably angry, you have to choose to step into celebration. You have to choose to be like, okay, I'm not going to push down the anger. I'm not going to not allow myself to express it or to feel it, okay? That's okay. Feel it. You can't let it go without feeling it. So I'm going to allow myself to feel it. But once I allow myself to feel it and I'm just being crazy, then I go, okay, I give myself grace.
We want to know what it means when she's being crazy. What does that look like? No, I'm just kidding. You know what I'm saying.
Poor Ramsey gets a lot of it. And I respond out of a hurt and anger place, and he doesn't know what's happening. And I don't even know what's happening. I don't know why I'm being mean to him. And then he's like, you're being mean to me. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I know. I don't know where this is coming from. And it's just that process of transcending flesh and wounds and hurt and looking in the mirror and be like, no, I am Christ within, and that's how I'm going to operate, and that's how I'm going to live my life. And I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to release it. But we think so many times that releasing it is just shoving it down and pretending like it's not there. Yeah. The unforgiveness I had towards her, I was just shoving it down because I didn't want to acknowledge the fact that I had those thoughts and that they became beliefs for me because it was so ugly and disgusting. I didn't want to look at that. I didn't want to think that I would think that. But the moment I said, no, this is how I feel, and my feelings were lying to me, they weren't real, right? They're just a reaction to your thoughts and your beliefs. So the moment I felt it, and I said, I'm angry at her, was the moment it released from my body.
And I will say, it didn't hurt me or offend me. And it has what I'm learning to do in the midst of hearing people's judgments, opinions, because you hear it. You hear it inside. You can see it. When you're up here, it's very vulnerable to stand up in front of people and say, do what you know to hear God, and then everyone has opinions or try not to. But with it, then the part of me that is hurt by that or wants to justify is ego. So even somebody else's opinion or their take on me, the part that me that's hurt is ego. Yeah. And so thank you. Does that make sense? You're showing me that part that needs to die anyway.
Yeah. And not only that, but sometimes when we think we're experiencing grief, like there's been moments when I missed my dad so much, and I thought it was grief, and I'm like, oh, I'm so sad, I just miss him. And God said, actually, you miss him doing things for you and helping you prepare the way because you're too scared to create your own way. And I was like, he goes, so actually that has nothing to do with missing him as a person. That has to do with your own fears you're not willing to face because he always made you feel so safe, so you never had to face your own fears. You never had to create your own way because he created it for you. And I was like, oh, well, okay.
He's done that with me often because their ego misses as well, the natural self.
And that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it's okay.
you don't judge it.
Tell yourself, okay, that's okay. It's okay that he was this strong pillar of safety for me, and now without him, I feel so unsafe. Okay, that's okay that I feel that way, but now I have to go within to find that safety within myself.
Right, which was always the point. Raising your kids, pastoring, the fivefold ministry was to mature the saints. It was not to attach to the fivefold ministry. We've given our life to try to detach that. But then people want Moses to go up. They don't want to go up. And so then you have this like pressure in this fight. But it was always to mature and then push them out into the unknown, into you're the creator. It's you, guys. God doesn't have a plan B. Do you remember Darren preached that? You're his plan A.
Well, and you guys, this COVID and 2020, this entire transition, what's happening in the breakdown of these systems is for you to create. Mm-hmm. It is an opportunity, and I told this to one of my really good friends because she was in this abusive relationship, and I said, you know what? This man in your life is a gift because he's showing you how you feel about yourself. He's showing you the beliefs that you've had about yourself. And then he's responding and treating you out of a specific way, but it's to reveal you to yourself. Yeah. What is happening in the systems that are breaking down is to reveal you. It's to reveal the sons of God. It's to reveal the creators. Because before, we could just be content. We could just be settled. And now it's forcing it out of us. You have to listen to Christ within because there's a lot of loss around. There's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of fear happening right now. And so it's forcing us to go within. Is that a scary place? Because you're going to have to face your own, whatever you want to call it, demons, darkness, whatever you want to call it. It's all there for your good anyways. None of it's actually bad. It's forcing you to create. And it's kind of funny. I kind of have seen God laughing at times. Because he's like, okay, you don't want to create? Okay, here we go. And then he's like, how about now? And then you're like, no, I want to stay content and I want to just live in my happy bubble. And he's like, okay, how about now? How about now? And all these other things are they're going on around us. and he's just saying, do you want to create now? Do you want to be who you were born to be now? Or do you want to stay in complacency and allow other people to do it for you? Mm-hmm. And I was telling Ramsey this because I said, there's people who create wealth. They have people who have created mass wealth. They have an understanding of facing themselves. They have an understanding of transcending things within themselves. And I was telling him, I was like, look, we cannot get there without going within. Whether they have acknowledged that or not, or how they've acknowledged that process, there is a certain process to have generational wealth that you have to go within. You have to face what's within you. And I said, we will not get there. Everything that's happening around us, the things that are happening to us, are actually happening by us. It's us creating it to force what's in us to come out. Yes, it sucks, but it's actually awesome, if that makes sense.
That's the two realities.
It's hard, but it's also like this process of knowing that I'm going to be okay, of knowing that I can go within, of knowing that I can hear God, I can hear Christ within, is the most profound gift that you can have. So taking away all the things that you thought kept you safe or all the things that made you feel a certain way, removing that is such a gift. We are living in a day and time, you guys, that we are so blessed to be alive.
Yeah.
We are so blessed to have the understanding that the systems no longer control us. Think about our grandparents. They just lived in the system. They didn't know anything else. Mm-hmm. And then they had to cope with the systems that they were living in. And now we have the information available to us. We have the ability to speak to people across the world, to spread this light, to spread this information that you can change. You can create. You can be who you've always wanted to be within. That is who you're supposed to be. That is who you already are and what you've already done. And so now when I go into my meditations, I say, okay, Christ, what have I already done? What have I already agreed to do? And I speak out my mouth. And the lady we went to, she said, you don't have, she started telling me some things in the future. And there's all things that I've heard before prophetically. And she said, you don't have to do them. Because there's been an unwillingness within me. I got a word when I was 13 that I was going to preach. And I remember I went home and I laid on the trampoline and I was like bawling because I did not want the persecution that I saw my dad go through and the things that had happened to our family. I didn't want that. Mm-hmm. And so when she said that to me, God brought that memory up to me and he said, you already denied it. So now go back into the memory, and if you want this call, if you want this blueprint for your life, go back and accept it. Because you've cut it off from yourself. Even though it was a reasonable reason why I didn't want to do it.
But she made a decision.
I made a decision.
A judgment that was plugged into itself, the energy of death. So she heard it from here, we hear it from here, we make a decision about it. That's not God. And we give it the verdict of the mind. And that's what that kills it.
And so many people have said, or not that many, but a couple people have said like, oh, wow, I love seeing you come into who you are. Because if you knew me a couple years ago, I might not have always been super as friendly. Or I definitely had some very strong walls up and I was just kind of like, But that was me trying to cope with the fact that I was denying my blueprint. I was denying myself being myself. And then I had to cope with the fact that I was allowing that in my life. So I was having to cope with the person I was in that moment, which was denying who I was supposed to be, who I was, my being, who I already am. So I went back into that memory, and I rolled over on the trampoline in my memory, and I just said, not my will, Father, but your will. I accept my blueprint. And I started saying these out loud. Because a lot of times, you guys, there's a lot of things in our life that are being gifted to us that we cut off because of some type of experience or trauma or unforgiveness. And God's like, no, it's still available to you. It's still here for you. But you still have to go back into that memory and release it. And say, no, I do accept not my will, but your will. Because your will always be the tree of good and evil. It'll always bring death. And it's not about a death of dying. It's about a death within here.
Yep.
And that is the worst death you can experience. Yep. When you're dead inside. And I can't tell you how many years I was dead in here. There was a Thanksgiving. I didn't come to Thanksgiving. I was actually drunk in a bathtub. And
she liked to punish us on holidays.
I did. I would because I was denying myself, so I had to deny my family. Because my family my parents were being that. So then I would create these controversies where I would be able to be like, well, then I'm not coming to Thanksgiving or I'm not coming to Christmas. Because it was so painful to be around my parents who were being their beings when I'm denying that. And I'm denying myself that with them. And I knew it was connected to them. So instead I'm getting drunk in a bathtub and I'm listening to the song.
It's like a country song. I'm getting drunk on them.
And it was this song, what was the song? The song is something, it was a very negative song. And it's just repeating in my mind, like you can't do anything right kind of song. But the self-death that I was coming from me. It was me. I was the problem.
What?
And she was telling me that, and then I'm getting angry at her for telling me that I was the problem. I'm like, no, it's these things. So your mind's going to try to tell you it's this, this, and this. It's you. Whatever death you're experiencing in your life, whatever area you don't want to face, it's you. It's you cutting those things off. It's you causing that death. And then if there's certain people you don't want to be around, and I experience this a lot, when people wanted to choose their own way or however they wanted to word it, then they would cut my parents off, and then my family, and we would feel that hurt because they didn't want to be reminded of the fact that they're allowing their own death within themselves. And then they would get resentful and angry like it was Darren and Sheila's fault, that they feel dead inside.
So in a small town, this is how God raised us up. When you have pastors' kids, when somebody chooses to do whatever, most of the time they didn't tell us when they left or whatever, then they would just cut you off, and then you see them everywhere. You're not away from them.
They avoid you in person, and you're like, hi, and someone you loved and like know vulnerable things about and have went into the spirit with, and then they're kind of...
Yeah, and your kids don't understand. You don't really understand. And that's why, I don't know if you guys remember the story years ago, one of our spiritual daughters, she sat us down and said that she's moving out because she wants to have sex. And I went, thank you. And we stayed in relationship. She helped us with conferences. She was, it wasn't, we're not going to judge where you are or what your decisions are, but don't cut the relationship, because the constructs that we've created in this earth realm is divorce. And we know God hates divorce. And there's only one body. There's only one body. And so the whole thing is, it doesn't matter if we agree or disagree. What matters is where the death comes is when you cut somebody off. Does that make sense? It stops the flow. This is why I'm telling you, which I've been writing this out, and I'm going to get it on the website, and I'll make it really clear, that we're not going to tell people how to think from here. That means we're going to have people speak that we don't agree with. What kind of growth is there if you have to agree with the person speaking to be okay? And Justin Abraham always says, I'm not more powerful than you because I'm holding the microphone. If you didn't agree with something and you're stuck on that, the part of you that's stuck is your ego. All you have to do is say, I didn't agree with that, and you keep going. Does that make sense? Like, no one's taking your beliefs from you. You are on your journey, you're on your path, you get to grow, you get to mature. And that's why I'm talking about when people are getting a hold of me that are not from the Western church. They didn't, the other day, Alex, this little baby, you guys have seen her probably more than you want to. I put pictures out there. She dropped some ear pods in her shirt. And she said, oh, sit, but it wasn't that word. And here I was kind of proud that she used it correctly. But she said it 4 more times when she dropped something, this little baby, oh, sit. And I'm like, okay, now let me ask you something. And I text Alex, I'm like, really? Is this what we're teaching now? Is this what we're doing? Like, is this one of, And we're laughing about it, and you got to watch that with kids, right? They repeat stuff. In it, though, was that evil that she said it? No. Was her intention evil? How are you judging that? Because if I said it right now from the pulpit, you would judge differently. No. You wouldn't. You want me to say it? I'm not saying it. You know me. I know. But do you guys understand the point? So when somebody comes in, this is what I'm learning. I mean, a book, if they use terms that aren't in our Western box, we get offended. That's why I told you, Paul shows up to me as a shining bright light. He has a word of the Lord. Do you want it? And you're like, yes. And if I said it came in a dream, you're going to even receive it more. But if I come over here and I said, last night I channeled Paul, I'm going to start using these terms purposefully to stump you, because you have to know intention. The Eastern culture and the Western culture have verbiage, and that's all it is. And there's people that have been this guy that just wrote me, and thank you for writing me, and he went off into the occult, and he got into all of this stuff, and he's coming back to some of his roots, but not the religious roots. Christ within. I'm not waiting for him to get his verbiage right. We're going to make room. We're going to take them all off like coats anyway, because I told you the way that I'm being communicated looks much more like electricity. How do you define that? Why am I telling you guys this? Because this house is making room for everybody. For the Jonies that are saying, oh, sit. And we know it's cute. We know that it wasn't evil intention. I'm learning the Aramaic Lord's Prayer in Aramaic. Oh my gosh, we're so far away. Because the Greeks took it and put it into constructs. And when the Aramaic, when they would say, Adam, the Almighty, the infinite God, Adam, in form, God in form, right? And so as I'm learning this, I'm telling you, it's going to get more and more weird. It's going to get more spacious, which is holy. We're not going to be able to find the boundary. You're going to have fear because you're looking for a construct, and you're going to have to go within.
Also, that is who God is. God is unexplainable. There is no definition big enough. There is no words to explain enough. And so then religion took God and said, this is who God is.
Made him all masculine.
Yes, and
just throwing that out there.
Took morals and put morals in there on what's good and what's wrong and what's right. That literally, religion is all from the system of this tree.
Yeah.
If you're defining God, you don't know him. And that's why so many people look for God and find him outside of religion, because religion has taken him and then defined him and then told you what it is. You guys, and that's one thing that I would just say, go into your, whether it's a meditation or prayer or worship or however you want to say it. If you were raised religiously, there's a lot of beliefs that you have automatically judged good and bad that I would encourage you to go back and say, okay, where is God in that? Because he's not in that at all. He cannot be defined.
So let's do this. We're ending. Why don't you just kind of lead us in a going back and just allowing the Spirit to show us where we've made judgments and cut off things that were Christ.
So if you guys just want to close your eyes.
And it could be things that maybe we didn't hear with our natural ears, but maybe it was spoken over us even generations back.
So typically when we start a meditation, we go into a safe place, but that's not where I want us to go tonight or day. I want you to picture a big black, kind of like a ball of energy. It's very unknown. It's not familiar. If it feels scary, that's okay. And as you picture this energy, I want you to see yourself immerse into it. And I want you to just allow the darkness to fully surround you like a blanket. It's all around you. All that you can see is that it's dark. And you can feel this energy just kind of pulsing around you. Now, it might not feel safe, but you are safe. And as you're standing in this dark ball of energy, I want you to close your eyes in this picture. And I want you to say, Christ within. What is it that I need to see here? What is it that I need to face? What is the fear? What is the not knowing that I'm allowing to hold myself back? And as this is happening around you, you can picture Jesus standing on the outside. And he's smiling and he's laughing. And as you stay in this place, just say, Christ, show me myself. Show me my own judgments. Show me my own unforgiveness. And whether it's memories or words, just let them wash over you. There's nothing that's not allowed. Any feeling or emotion, just allow it right now. And as you open your eyes in this black energy, I want you to say, I forgive myself. And I give myself grace. And I allow the processes that I have stopped for my growth, for my healing, for my wealth, for my peace. And sometimes that's hard to do as an adult, so if you need to picture yourself as a child, go ahead and picture it as a child. It's typically easy for us to give grace to a child because they didn't know. Well, you didn't know either. Beliefs and judgments just come. But they always come for our growth. They always come to push us into the knowing, into the stillness, into the peace. Now just breathe into this moment. Now, as you stand there, I just want you to see all of that dark energy disintegrate in front of you. And then you're standing in a field or by the ocean or in your home, wherever you feel safe. And I want you to see Jesus embrace you and hear him whisper in your ear, Christ within. Christ within. Christ within. And just hear him speak to you. I'm proud of you. Facing your judgments and your fears, it's hard. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Christ within. Peace within. You are a son and daughter of God. And I'm so proud of you for allowing the judgments to be released, allowing the anger to be released, the hurt to be released. I'm a proud father. Christ within. And then I just want you to see yourself being surrounded by a white light, comforting, calm, but also movement around you. And it's just hugging you. It's hugging you, and it's also replacing beliefs. It's replacing judgments with love, unconditional love. And allow yourself to feel that unconditional love for yourself. Almost like you're wrapping your arms around yourself and you're just holding yourself there. All unconditional love starts within. And then whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes.
You guys can open your eyes. Why don't you go ahead and stand with me? God, I just thank you for your sons and daughters. And this is the faith, like a grain of mustard seed, that many can perch in your branches, give shade and strength. This is the trust in the yieldedness. God, I thank you for who you are raising up in this hour, God. Is there not a cause in the earth? Those that trust you deeply and fully and go into the knowing within. God, I thank you for this body. I thank you for our family and for everyone that can hear our voice. I thank you that you're opening us up to the unknown. Danny, as I was thinking about you, I'm just reminded of the word that you're going to go in where kids have been abducted. And you're going to go in the spirit and you're going to lead them out. And as your life has taken this turn and as the two realities are going on at the same time, you're going to love one, redeem one, but in the spirit, you're going to a deep place. And it's just begun. God, I thank you for joy that's beyond our understanding, beyond our mind. I thank you for peace that passes by everything we could ever think. I thank you for a deep-rooted system in your unconditional love and your grace, in your peace. God, I thank you that you're teaching us. When I went into the dark, I began to, she said to go within, it like lit up. And you're the light. You are the light in the darkness. You are the city on a hill. God, I just thank you for this family. I just bless you guys. I tell you to have a good week. And just as stuff comes up, just get in the mirror. I want to hear your stories. Get in the mirror and start telling yourself. Amen. We release you guys.